Hi everyone, my name is Eyal Moldovan and I'm the General Manager of Payoneer Direct. Thanks for taking part in Payoneer Go Beyond virtual event. In this session, I will be sharing some insights around major trends in FinTech and global commerce. So let's get started. The agenda for today is, we will start by reviewing some major trends in commerce globally. Afterwards, I will share how COVID impacted the trends and in general, some COVID-related observations. We're then going to shift to talk about the FinTech space and ending with a high-level Payoneer vision. We live in extraordinary times where technology is transforming commerce both globally and locally. Access to smartphones in a cost-effective price and worldwide access to the internet at global scale became a commodity and are the main driver for the change. Hard even to imagine communication without applications like WhatsApp, WeChat, Viber, and Line. These applications and more, which are all built on top of operating systems like iOS and Android, are an example of how the world is becoming borderless. News and information are spread from Manila to US at the same pace as local news. Borders have almost no meaning anymore. One of the most amazing outcomes of this is the democratization of opportunities in emerging markets. There are now over hundreds of millions of talented freelancers and small businesses that now can compete in a global market for goods and service like never before. Payoneer is honored to play a key role in providing financial service to enable cross-border trade, and in the last 15 years, we were amazed by the success of local businesses in emerging markets. From first-hand, I experienced and saw young entrepreneurs receiving their first-hand earnings as individuals to the Payoneer account, and years later, building and employing dozens and hundreds of employees, serving companies worldwide, and setting role models for future entrepreneurs in their communities. Another key drivers are marketplace and platforms, which I'll elaborate in the following slides. Every single vertical was either disrupted by a marketplace or is in the process of being disrupted. In consumer goods, Amazon is the little brand where global consumers shop online. Amazon has created a platform where third-party sellers can compete for demand of billions of dollars of potential spend. Amazon is also providing third-party sellers with additional solutions like last-mile delivery and logistics to help them grow and also control the buyer experience. But Amazon is not alone in the space. There are a lot of successful marketplaces that compete in different locations or different categories or niches. And we can't even imagine how our life would be without those platforms anymore. In the travel space, Airbnb and others have disrupted the entire accommodation industry by allowing homeowners to list their properties for short-term rental and provide their travelers with more options that are cost-effective and different. In transportation, Uber, Lyft, and others disrupted the taxi industry by matching between demand and supply of drivers and passengers. They changed completely how we communicate and pay drivers. In many cities across the globe, who can even remember what it means to raise your hand in the streets, wait for a taxi, and not mention even taking cash out of your wallet and pay a driver? In services, marketplaces like Upwork and Fiverr provide access to gig economy freelancers worldwide to find clients and get paid from companies and individuals worldwide. A mobile app developer in Bangladesh can now compete evenly with a developer in US and win. And it doesn't just stop in these verticals. Yes, it's really hard to believe that all of the trends I talked about were prior to COVID. What suddenly erupted in China and seemed to be an isolated event became a global phenomenon, affecting all countries across the globe. Not only it's hard to imagine our life prior to COVID, and more importantly, even to grasp that it's only few months and it feels like years. Based on the information we have today, it is clear that next year, 2021, would also be impacted by COVID. So it's really important to understand how COVID impacted global commerce and how your strategy should be adjusted. So what happened to global commerce? If we look at US data and the share of e-commerce retail sales versus total sales, which includes offline, we can see that each year, e-commerce are gaining 1% market share, a very consistent trend of shift from offline to online. COVID accelerated that trend, and in just 8 weeks, the share jumped from 10% to 27%. 10 years of trend is happening in weeks. Let me repeat that. 10 years of a trend happened and delivered in just 8 weeks. So now the million-dollar question is, what will be the trend moving forward? Are we expecting to see a decline back to the levels of pre-COVID? Or are we planning to see a continued growth in e-commerce? Almost all predictions are estimating that the trend will continue onwards. And why is that? The answer is simple. COVID did not change the fundamental fact that more and more consumers are discovering the benefits of online buying versus offline. COVID just accelerated what should have happened in the first place. As an example, my mom, due to COVID, is now buying groceries online straight from her home, and it will be very hard to convince her to go back to drive, find parking, stand in lines, even when COVID ends. The future has arrived faster, and we all need to get used to it. So what else did COVID accelerate? And what is the impact on the trends we talked before? Remote work. Who would have imagined that companies will shift their entire workforce to work from home and it will deliver the same or even better results? Major tech companies already declared that they will allow remote work to employees to continue after COVID permanently. It becomes clear that going back to the office every day will not be the new norm, and that a mix of home and work is the new home. The exact proportion will be decided based on the industry, culture, the CEO of the company. The acceleration of e-commerce, together with remote work, created and creates a lot of opportunities to gig economy industry. Vast amount of businesses understood or had no choice but to shift focus and budgets to online. This creates a demand for services around online, building online stores, managing advertising, SEO, listings, online customer support, and more. Other industries are also seeing a spike in demand, like global gaming, social platforms, online education. And it's not a surprise. What else can you do if you're stuck at home most of your time? So let's switch gears now and talk a bit about trends in FinTech. But I will start with a definition. What is a FinTech? FinTech is a company that uses technology to support or enable banking and financial services. FinTech is one of the fastest growing areas for venture capital. Tens of billions of dollars were invested and are invested each year in companies in the space. It covers a wide range of offerings like loans, credit, investments, payments, and more. It also includes services and technologies that help enable that, like risk monitoring, entity verification, and more. So who is winning, and how will the future look like? On one hand, There are big banks that control most of the financial activity for consumers and businesses. They have a strong brand, robust regulatory infrastructure, different licenses, but they are typically not efficient. They are not techy. They rely on legacy system. They're risk averse and slow to move. On the other hand, you have the FinTechs, which have a superior technology. They have great user experience. They are nimble, agile, fast, but they lack the brand recognition. They don't have enough license or regulated infrastructure, and they don't have customers. So who wins? Let's start with the beginning, or I like to call it round one. In round one, fintechs were really struggling to get the cooperation of the banks. It took a lot of time to establish relationship, and banks were not comfortable to engage and support, as it was very hard for them to comprehend the fintech's new approach. Without the cooperation, it was hard for fintechs to scale because they needed the banking infrastructure, which leads us to round two. After a few years, where there were already some proven early traction for fintechs, things become easier. Regulation in some location also helped, and fintech got licensed and they were able to operate freely. And banks also started to serve them as clients. In round three, which is where we are today, banks finally realize that the train of fintech has left the station and it's not planning to stop. They understood that the revenues parts of their business, like lending, payments, investments, are at risk. And not only did they need to start supporting fintechs, they also, like they did in round two, they also need to take it to the next level and partner with those fintechs. In the next few slides, I will explain what partnership means and give examples of how Payoneer did it with few banks worldwide. In the last 15 years, Payoneer has built a unique assets around technology, compliance, operation, risk, banking infrastructure to enable a different cross-border payment experience. The world's leading digital brands like Airbnb, Google, Upwork, Fiverr, and more are leveraging our platform for cross-border payments. The decision to extend our offering and partner with banks was both strategic and a natural evolution. When banks and wallets approached us a few years ago and asked if we can provide a Swiss alternative for their customer base, we immediately said yes and started working on a solution. So today, Payoneer is partnering with banks and wallets, offering our cross-border solution via APIs that can be embedded in banks and portals for their customer base. I'm very proud to share that over 70 banks and wallets are working with us in different stages. So what is the future for Payoneer? We're in the middle of an exciting journey where we are transforming from being a leading cross-border payment company to provide a wide range of financial services. We already today offer additional services like working capital, risk, and entity matching for marketplaces, tax, W form submission, invoicing, and more. Important to emphasize that we don't anticipate that we will build everything ourselves. We are actively working on partnership that soon will be announced so we can add more products and offerings to our customer base. So to summarize, how does Payoneer help entrepreneurs, gig economy workers, and small businesses? We connect them with leading marketplaces and platforms worldwide, allowing them to easily and seamlessly connect their Payoneer account and instantly get paid. We provide solutions that allow those companies worldwide to get paid or paid for B2B transactions. And in addition to payments, we provide additional financial services like FX services, tax, VAT, working capital, store management for e-commerce, and more. We are very passionate about what we do and strive to help entrepreneurs. I really want to thank each and every client we have and continue to commit that we'll be working very hard to maintain that trust given and provide more tools to help you grow. I want to end with a very famous quote by Winston Churchill. We are still in the middle of COVID effect, and many people around us are suffering. On one hand, as entrepreneurs, let's make sure we adjust our business to the new norm and the accelerating changes that will help us grow and be successful. But on the other hand, let's not forget that there's a lot of suffering around us. Let's try to give people and companies that are struggling our help and assistance as we can. I really want to thank everyone for the time today. Hope you enjoyed the session and happy to take any questions you have.